want to start today by challenging something our industry has believed for a really long time, that the best real estate agents are extroverts. You know the stereotype. They're outgoing, they work the room, they know everybody. They're always networking. They're comfortable walking up to strangers, and they love talking. And somewhere along the way, we started believing that if you're not naturally that person, you're at a disadvantage in real estate. Susan Cain's book, Quiet, The Power of Introvert in a World That Can't Stop Talking, challenges that idea, and I love it. And I think that there are some incredibly important lessons here for real estate agents, because some of the qualities we overlook in this business might actually be your competitive advantage. So number one, stop trying to sell like somebody else. This is one of my biggest pet peeves. One of the biggest mistakes agents make is looking at a successful agent and thinking, I need to become more like them. They're doing videos every day. They're working at a lot of networking events, and they're cold calling, and they're hosting these huge client events. They're even walking into a room and immediately becoming the center of attention. And thinking that they need to become that person. And maybe that's genuinely who they are. Great, good for them. But here's the question. What's your version of that? Because an agent that is introvert might build an incredible business through deep relationships with 50 people instead of casually knowing 500. They might be incredible one-on-one. They might send thoughtful follow-ups. They might listen better. They might prepare more. They might notice things other people miss. Those aren't weaknesses. Those are sales skills. They're just different sales skills. Your goal isn't to copy somebody else's personality and business. Your goal is to build a system around your strengths. Number two, listening is a superpower. We talk about this a lot. No matter your personality, it is superpower. Real estate agents are taught scripts. They're taught objection handlers, presentations. They're taught what to say. But sometimes we're focused on what we're going to say next, that we completely miss what the person is actually telling us. And great salespeople aren't necessarily great talkers. They're great listeners. Think about a listing appointment. The seller says, we need to get 600. An average agent immediately starts explaining comps and all of those things. A great listener might ask, tell me why 600 is important to you. Now you discover that they need a certain amount of equity to purchase their next home. That's the real conversation. A buyer says, we need 4 bedrooms. Okay, but why? Maybe they both work from home. Maybe they have a parent moving in. Maybe they want to have another child. The better listener you are, the better questions you can ask. And the better questions you ask, the more clearly you understand the problem. And the agent who understands the problem has a much better chance of getting hired to solve it. You don't have to dominate the conversation to lead the conversation. That's a big difference. I'm going to say that again. You don't have to dominate the conversation to lead the conversation. Number 3, preparation can be charisma. Some people can walk into a room and with no preparation and absolutely crush it. Good for them. Most of us probably shouldn't build our business around hoping charisma shows up at the right time. Preparation is repeatable. Before a listing appointment, know the numbers, know the competition, know the seller, anticipate the objections that you're going to get, know the questions you're going to ask. Before a negotiation, understand what matters to both sides. Before you shoot a video, know the one thing that you want the audience to take away. You don't have to be the quickest person in the room if you've done the work before you walk into the room. And here's what I love about that. Preparation builds confidence. You don't need to magically become more outgoing. You need to become more prepared. Number 4, know when to step outside your comfort zone. Here's where I don't want anyone to misunderstand this message from this book. Quiet is not permission to hide. There's a difference between honoring your personality and knowing who we are and adapting the business to that, but there's a difference between using that and using it as an excuse. You can be an introvert and still lead generate. You can dislike networking events and still build relationships. You can hate being on camera and still recognize that video might help your business. Sometimes growth requires us to do things that aren't naturally comfortable. The goal isn't, this makes me uncomfortable, so I'm going to do it. The question is, how can I do it in a way that works with me and my personality and who I am? Maybe instead of trying to meet 30 people in an event, your goal is 3 meaningful conversations. Maybe instead of cold calling for 4 hours, you build a highly intentional referral strategy. Maybe instead of trying to become an influencer on social media, you do 1 educational video a week. You still have to do the work. You just don't have to become somebody else in order to do it. And that is probably my biggest takeaway from this book. There isn't one personality type that wins in real estate. I see it all the time. I coach a lot of agents. I've seen loud agents build incredible businesses. I've seen quiet agents build incredible businesses. I've seen agents who can work an entire room, and I've seen agents who are unbelievable sitting across the table one-to-one. The common denominator isn't personality, it's intentionality. Know yourself, know your strengths, know where you're naturally gifted, and then be honest about where your comfort zone might be holding you back, because you don't need to become the loudest agent in the market. You don't need to have the biggest personality, and you don't need to become somebody you're not. You need to become exceptionally good at being you and building the business that allows those strengths to win. So here's my challenge for you this week. Ask yourself, what am I naturally really good at that I'm undervaluing? And then ask the harder question, where am I calling my personality when it's actually a fear? Know the difference, lean into the strengths, work on the gaps, and remember, you don't have to be the loudest voice in the room to be the one people listen to. Have a great week.